Going on Jerome's. So, reportedly, per ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, the Vikings are back on in terms of potentially shopping Danielle, the real deal Hunter. The 28-year-old defensive end is having a hold in. He's showing up so he doesn't get fined, but he's not practicing. Ain't even out on the practice field. So we'll see what Kwesi Adofo-Mensah wants to do with the absolute star edge rusher, the guy who led the team in sacks last year. But if it does come down to it, it comes down to it. So here are 8 trade destinations for Danielle Hunter. And we said this a bunch. Only trade Danielle if you're getting enough draft capital next year so that you can maneuver and find a quarterback in the future. So our line of demarcation is a first. Danielle Hunter is still worth a first-round pick. I always equate the Danielle Hunter deal to Bradley Chubb. I mean, Bradley Chubb's making $22 million per year. Bradley Chubb was traded for about a first and a fourth. That's what we're looking for Danielle. Because frankly, you look at some of the other edge rusher trades like Khalil Mack or whatever. It's like they were essentially given away. Von Miller, they're essentially given away in contract dumps, anything like that. Where the Vikings, they have all the leverage. Danielle is not costing the Vikings anything against the salary cap, and if he doesn't want a new deal, they frankly can take this thing to the mat and be like, hey, you play here or nowhere else. But if they do get a deal done, I think the Vikings and Kwesi can swing a decent draft compensation to start things out. Number 8. Seattle Seahawks. So yes, they just did extend Nwasu, but he is a scheme fit. Like he's perfect in what the defensive owner Clint wants to do. But they do have Nwasu. They do have Darrell Taylor. They do have Boye Mafe, the former Gopher, as well as rookie Derek Hall coming out of Auburn. So it would be a little bit more of a Danielle going in there and adding value on the edge. I think that he is a Pete Carroll type of guy. Remember, Pete Carroll's a defensive first guy, as well as the Seattle Seahawks do have around $11.13 million in space, so it's something that could make sense. But we know that Kwesi doesn't mind doing business in division. I'm sure he wouldn't mind doing business in conference, but ideally sending Danielle to the AFC would be kind of nice. Next up, number 7. The Jacksonville Jaguars, speaking of the AFC. So the Jaguars have $18.5 million in cap space. They do have Josh Allen as well as former number 1 overall pick Travon Walker. Oh, Josh Allen, the good one, as well as Travon Walker. They re-signed Dwayne Smoot as well as Kilavon Chason, former first-round pick out of LSU. So they do have edge talent, but Danielle would add some more to that stew, and maybe they would have a stew going. Also, hashtag journalism. Danielle apparently was following a handful of Jaguars on Instagram recently. So could it be happening in Duval? Possibly, man. Next up, number 6. So this one is more just because of the Andre Patterson tie. So Andre Patterson, a great defensive line coach for the Vikings for a number of years. He and Danielle Hunter are very close. The Giants, I mean, we know about the Giants last year. We know about their insane pass rush. They do have Azeez Ujulari, who's a stud. Kayvon Thibodeau, who's phenomenal, as well as Leonard Williams playing that 5-tech. So it would be, adding Danielle to that front 7 with Dexter Lawrence and company, that would be gross. That would absolutely be gross. But, I mean, they would have to make it work with the cap. But, I mean, would the Vikings trade Danielle to a team that's going to be competing in the NFC like that? I don't know, man. Next up, number 5, an NFC team who will not be competing this year, the Arizona Cardinals. So the Cardinals and our guy Monty Ossenfort, the pride of University of Minnesota Morris, he's a new GM. It's pretty clear that they're tanking. I mean, they really are. They're in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. They're going to get rid of Kyler, whatever. But on the edge, they have L.J. Collier, the former Seattle Seahawk. They have Cam Thomas, Majai Sanders, and Aziz's brother, B.J. Ujulari, who's on the PUP list. But they have cap space. They have 2 first-round picks, their own, which is going to be high, as well as the Texans, which is probably going to be high. So let's make a deal. If it must be tonight, we must make a deal. There we go. Next up, team number 4 that should trade for Danielle Hunter, the Rams. Now, I don't know if the Rams are tanking or not. I don't know, man, but they have just below $10 million in cap space. They got the bad Stafford contract. They let go of Leonard Floyd. They're just sort of riding things out with Aaron Donald. But they have their first round pick since 2016, which they used to make Jared Goff the number 1 overall pick. Maybe that's what happens. Like they're so snake bit by Jared Goff that they're just like, here, take all of our first F them picks, all that stuff. But their edge rushers right now, their 2 starters are Michael Hoecht, who. So I make a lot of football content, and I work adjacently in the football industry. I don't know who this is. I don't know who a starting edge rusher on an NFL team is. It's crazy, man. Also, they have rookie Byron Young. So, I mean, Danielle with the Rams would make a ton of sense. Also, Danielle and the leftovers of Aaron Donald would make a nice a gruesome twosome on one side of the defensive line. Sure. Next up, trade destination number 3, the Saints. So, the New Orleans Saints, which screw them right in the sun. I would prefer not to do business with them, but they have $13 million in cap space. They do have the Denver Broncos second round pick from their pick swap with the stupid ass Sean Payton trade. Now the problem is, like, even though they do run a 4-3, which is Danielle's preferred scheme. I mean, Cameron Jordan plays that left defensive end spot, which is Danielle Hunter's natural position. So it would have to take some moving and shaking. Although, even though Cam Jordan's a little bit older, that would be a nice duo. It wouldn't be too bad. Also, sort of a homecoming. You know, he went to LSU, Baton Rouge, all that stuff, heading back to Louisiana. Could make sense. Next up, number 2. Now, people get pissed off when I say this, but the Bears. The Bears, honestly, they're number 2, but they make a ton of sense. Number 1, Kwesi's not scared about making deals in division. The Bears have a ton of cap space. They can give Danielle a fresh contract. They have Carolina's first round pick. So it'd be like, hey, give us the Panthers first rounder, and we'll just move on with life, man. And right now, the Bears' 2 starting defensive ends are Trevis Gibson, the pride of Tulsa, and DeMarcus Walker, the former Tennessee Titan. And also, they play a lot of 4-3 over in Eberflus's scheme, so Danielle would be able to hit the ground running, and frankly, he may be better off than playing in a 3-4. But I don't know, man. Like, Danielle, you know, people say, oh, trade Danielle, he's not loyal. We paid him when he had his broken freaking neck, all that stuff. It's like, yeah, you want to play him twice a year? Is that what you want to do? I don't think you do. I don't think you do, man. But the Bears make a ton of sense, but I don't know if they'll do it. And lastly, number 1, Texans. So Texans check a lot of boxes. Now, they'll have to maneuver a little bit with the salary cap, except I'm sure they can do that. They'll probably restructure Tunsil or something, whatever. But Caserio's guys in the opposite conference, they do have, even though they traded their first-round pick to the Cardinals as part of the Will Anderson deal, they still have the Browns' first-round pick. So we'll take that, and then we'll just boo our guy Stefanski. Boo. There you go. And on the edge, they have Will Anderson, a top 3 pick, the pride of Alabama, who's going to be an absolute monster. And then they have Jonathan Greenard. And that's really it. That's it. Also, you know, factor in some of the other intangibles. Houston, Danielle grew up in Katy, Texas, which is a suburb of Houston, so it would be a homecoming of sorts. He spends a lot of time in the offseason down in Texas still, so it would be appealing to him, certainly. And if the Vikings can get that Browns first-round pick, maybe some change, and go from there. But, again, I would prefer not to trade Danielle Hunter, but if it comes down to it, Kwesi, get that first. Get that first, man. But that's it. 8 trade destinations for Danielle Hunter. Let us know your thoughts and our thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support the work? Put a little something in the Venmo. But till next time, Skol Production Value.